I'm Jake with Benelli, and this is the Benelli Lupo. Today we're going in depth about everything this bolt action has to offer. The Benelli Lupo is a revolutionary bolt action rifle designed to elevate your hunting experience with precision, comfort, and versatility. At the heart of the Lupo is Benelli's innovative chassis system, which seamlessly integrates a precision machine receiver with a cryo-treated free-floating barrel. This combination is engineered to minimize barrel vibration, enhance consistency, and ultimately deliver superior sub-MOA accuracy shot after shot. Every shooter is unique, and the Benelli Perfect Fit and CombTech systems ensure you get the ideal fit for your specific shooting style. The Lupo can easily be modified for drop, cast, length of pull, comb height, and trigger weight. In the end, the Lupo is like a custom-fit rifle, straight out of the box. And the features don't stop there. The integrated progressive comfort system significantly reduces felt recoil, helping you to keep your shooting mechanics sound and allowing for faster follow-up shots. The Lupo features an adjustable trigger that allows you to set the weight from 2.2 to 4.4 pounds, which delivers a clean, crisp break every time. And the Benelli bolt system features a 60-degree bolt throw for a fast, smooth cycling action and clearance for optics. The Lupo is more than a rifle. It's a statement of craftsmanship, innovation, and performance that's designed for hunters who demand accuracy, comfort, and reliability in every shot. All right, Ethan, let's open this box and take a look.
Sure, when we open the lid, we'll notice on top is the rifle. Below that is the bolt assembly.
Okay.
To the right is the owner's manual. And there's good information in there about disassembling the bolt, adjusting the trigger, and adjusting the stock.
Okay.
Here we have a bottle of oil for lubrication.
Okay. And what's in this little package here?
That package there has sling studs and swivels. There's a wrench to remove the barreled action from the chassis. There is a wrench to adjust the trigger, and there's shims.
Okay. And what would I need shims for?
Well, with the Lupo, it's a chassis-style rifle, so the stock is fully adjustable to every shooter. The shims will adjust the drop and the cast, and they would go in here in between the stock and the receiver.
Okay.
And then back here we have stock spacers to adjust the length of pull.
Okay, perfect. Looks like everything's here. Time to get it all assembled. All right, Ethan, show me how to put this thing together. It seems like there's a trick to putting this bolt in.
There is. This is especially important if you have the wood model with the raised comb.
Sure.
We get a lot of calls. People with a brand new gun end up with a little nick right here when they're trying to get the bolt started into the receiver.
Oh, yeah, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, so to avoid that, you can take the bolt and actually rotate it 180 degrees this way.
Okay.
Where you're essentially putting it in upside down. And that will leave just enough clearance to miss that raised comb. And then rotate it around.
Okay.
And close it.
Perfect. Yeah, that's a great tip. Sure wouldn't want to damage that beautiful walnut.
Oh, for sure.
All right, Ethan. Now we've got a functioning gun. I don't know about you, but I love to have a sling on my rifles. I know you mentioned this came with studs, so how do we install those?
Sure. So we first go to put in the sling studs. First things first, I know we just put this together, but I'm going to open the bolt, inspect it, make sure it's unloaded. We will need to remove the barreled action from the chassis to get these out. So
okay.
I'm going to go ahead and take the bolt out. That allows us to get to one of the chassis screws. After removing the bolt, pull the magazine out.
Yep.
And we'll remove the chassis screws, which can be done with the wrench that comes with the gun, which is a T25 Torx. The front chassis screw is in this little hole at the base of the fore end. Here you want to be careful. Hold the fore end and hold the barrel because it will come apart at this point. And that screw will stay captured inside there. So I'm going to set the barreled action to the side for now. And then with a punch or with the wrench that comes with the gun, you can push from the inside and pop those plugs out. There's two there in case you want to install a bipod as well. So once we have the plugs removed, we can take one of the sling studs, carefully start it in by hand, and then take a punch and twist it the rest of the way. Once it gets flush, just square it off, but don't over tighten. You don't want to crack the stock. In this case, I'm going to put the rear plug back in. You don't want to leave that out if you're not going to use the hole. You can get some moisture end up in there. And that I can push in by hand. For the rear rubber plug, we'll need to remove the recoil pad. And that's a Phillips head. The bottom screw can be a little hard to find. Once the recoil pad is off, the Progressive Comfort assembly has 2 Phillips head screws. And then that slides out. And from there, this wrench that comes with the gun, you can push it into the back of the stock. And the hole here does go all the way through. So, take the short end once it's started and pop it out. Then we can take the stud, start it by hand, and take a punch and go the rest of the way. And then reassemble. The Progressive Comfort system will go in with 2 screws. I normally set the torque on my drill down for this, or do it by hand. From there, the barreled action will then drop into the chassis. Just be sure to line up the recoil lug and it'll drop into place. The front screw is inside of the fore end in that little hole. And for these screws, you can refer to the owner's manual for torque specs. Reinstall the bolt. And then reinstall the magazine.
Ready to put a sling on it.
That's right.
Thanks, Ethan. That was great. All right, Ethan. Let's disassemble this.
Sure. First thing we'll do is make sure it's not loaded. And that's the first step with disassembly anyway. We'll take the bolt out. Push the bolt release button. Flip the bolt 180 degrees upside down. And that will drop away from the receiver. Take out the magazine. And really to clean this, we're just going to take the barreled action out of the chassis. And to do that, there is a screw underneath of the rear of the bolt. So with the bolt out, you can see that one there. And it's a T25 Torx head screw. And there is a wrench that comes with the gun you can use to remove this. And then on the bottom, there's a hole in the back of the fore end. And there's another screw in there. And for this part, you want to hold the chassis and the barreled action so it doesn't fall. And that screw will stay captured inside the fore end.
Okay.
And then the barreled action will come away from the chassis. And here you can clean out any kind of debris. If there's any little bit of spot rust, down around the trigger assembly, something where some moisture settled, look at all this here. But this stuff you don't want to disassemble. Leave it just like it is. You can blow it off with compressed air, maybe just give it a shot of oil. Not too heavy, but just make sure it's free of debris. This one has the best finish, so you won't have to worry about any kind of rust, on the bottom of the barrel, areas that you don't normally, or aren't able to normally wipe down.
Sure.
Same thing within the chassis. Down in here, any kind of debris that might be down around where the trigger assembly goes, inside the fore end, you can clean all this out with compressed air.
Now, what about if I want to clean the inside of my barrel?
That's definitely a good thing to do, maybe once a season, or if you started to notice accuracy fall off from copper fouling. Whichever one is your favorite bore solvent, with a nylon brush or bronze brush.
Okay.
And just scrub all that fouling out.
Okay, easy enough. Now, is there anything else here before we put it back together that we'd want to lubricate?
Yeah, I would oil the bolt, a little bit on here. It's not gonna. This one in particular won't rust with the best finish. I would oil it though, just a little bit on the shroud. You don't want to over oil it. Like I say, the trigger assembly you can put a little bit on here, maybe just a shot from an aerosol can on each side, and that's basically going to be it.
Okay. Super simple.
Yeah, it is.
Well, Ethan, if that's it, let's put this thing back together.
All right. So we'll take the barreled action and drop it right back into the chassis. Once the recoil lug lines up, it'll fall into place. We'll take our screwdriver, tighten the front action screw in the fore end. I left it a little bit loose right there. Then we'll tighten the rear action screw. And we'll go ahead and torque those down. Torque specs for these screws are in the owner's manual. We can take our bolt assembly. That goes in with the handle 180 degrees to the left, upside down. Slide it forward, turn it around.
Perfect.
Then the magazine can be installed. And it's ready to go.
And that's it.
That's it.
We've got a clean gun. All right, Ethan, I know the Lupo has many adjustments for every shooter, kind of like a custom rifle right out of the box. Adjustments like length of pull, drop, cast, trigger to grip adjustments, and adjustable trigger. Can you show us how to do some of those?
Sure, but first, let's render the gun safe. Before making any adjustments or doing any work on your firearm, be sure it's unloaded. For this one, I'm just going to remove the bolt and set it aside so we're sure. In the accessory kit, there's 12.5 millimeter spacers, and there's also some progressive comfort spacers that have to be added as well. I'm going to go ahead and add one of those. First, we'll remove the recoil pad with a screwdriver or a drill. It has 2 Phillips head screws. Then the progressive comfort assembly. is 2 more Phillips head screws. And these screws we're going to take out, and there's some longer ones included for adding spacers. So we'll go ahead and include one of the 12.5 millimeter spacers. And the progressive comfort screws can be put back in. There's also longer screws for the recoil pad. And the recoil pad screws are the little machine screws that you'll see. So from the inside of the pad, you can use a punch and push those out. To install new recoil pad screws, I like to put a little oil on the screw holes to protect the rubber, and then start the screws. The progressive comfort spacer goes in the middle of the length of pull spacer. The recoil pad goes on, and the screws can be tightened. And there we have added 12.5 millimeters to our length of pull.
There we go. Simple enough.
Yes, it is.
Now, let's talk about how to adjust the drop and cast. Can you explain to us a little bit about what exactly that means?
Sure. So the drop and the cast is easily adjustable on this rifle. There's a drop shim in between the stock and the receiver.
Okay.
There's a cast shim we can add if we want to cast the stock left or right a little bit. And there's also a grip to trigger spacer if you want to lengthen that a little bit. So say if your eye relief feels a little bit off, if you feel like you have to move your head a little to align everything, then you can adjust the stock to make up for that, to see through your scope clearly without
Okay.
moving too much and keep a solid cheek weld.
So basically, I can customize it to fit me perfectly.
Right, that's
Okay.
right. So yeah, let's go ahead. We'll adjust the drop and the cast on this. We'll start by removing the recoil pad. 2 Phillips head screws holds this on. We'll remove the progressive comfort assembly. That's 2 more Phillips head screws. And there's a 13 millimeter stock nut. So once the stock nut comes off, the stock will slide off. And inside, we're going to have some hardware come out. There's a spacer, a flat washer, a lock washer, and there's the nut. The drop shim that we're going to change is on the front of the stock here. And we can snap that off. So in this case, we have a J drop shim.
Okay.
So if you refer to the owner's manual, you'll see we're going to put a Y shim in, which is going to drop the stock just a little bit more.
Okay.
Also, we'll add the cast shim, which if the cast shim is desired, it can just go right onto the back of the drop shim, just like that. And we see DX here, which is going to cast off as a right-handed shooter. It'll cast the stock away from the face
Okay.
a little bit. It's reversible. SX would do the opposite. take the rifle, put your drop shim and cast shim. And this is where the grip to trigger spacer could be added.
Okay. I want to lengthen that just a little bit more.
Just a little bit more. That option is there. Before putting the stock back on, you'll see this spacer has a plate with letters on it. And you want to match up whichever drop shim we installed. We want to make sure that letter is in between those two arrows. So for this example, we used the Y. So I'm going to go up and get those teeth in line and snap in so we have Y in between the arrows.
Okay.
That spacer drops right down into the back of the stock. And then the stock can be reinstalled on the rifle. Our 2 washers and nut. I usually use like a pistol cleaning rod, long screwdriver, something like that, just to guide these back down onto the stock bolt. And that can be a little tricky, but then we'll tighten the nut. And this once again is a 13 millimeter. I just use a socket wrench or a T-handle.
Yep. Just nice and snug there.
Yeah. You can refer to the manual for torque specs on that.
Perfect.
But yeah, very similar to reinstalling like a shotgun stock. The progressive comfort system goes back in. And for this scenario, we have a length of pull spacer. Put the recoil pad back on. And now we have dropped the stock and added some cast off.
That was pretty simple. Now
Yeah.
we've got a custom fit-to-me gun.
Yeah,
ready to go.
Exactly.
All right, Ethan. So now talk to me about trigger adjustments and what's possible in the Lupo. Because I know for me, usually right out of the box, I prefer a little bit of a lighter trigger pull. Is that possible with this?
Yeah, it sure is. It's very easy to adjust. This wrench, this Allen wrench, comes with the gun, and this is for adjusting the trigger pull weight. So we'll remove the magazine. The bolt is already out. That'll have to be out of the way for this as well. And there's a Allen head screw inside of a gold-colored bushing. Right down. I go down through the ejection port to get to it.
Okay.
To lighten the trigger pull weight, you'll loosen that screw.
Okay. So counterclockwise.
Yeah, if we tighten the screw, the pull weight will be heavier.
Okay.
So I'm going to back it off here about 1 full turn. And the screw is over top of a captured plunger over the spring. So this is going to get us right around probably just over 2 pounds.
Okay.
And then we can reinstall the magazine. And if you'd like to hand me the bolt.
Here you go.
And it's ready to go.
I feel like this one's custom fit to me now.
It is, and it's really easy to do.
Ready to put a scope on it and head to the field.
Exactly.
So for this Benelli Lupo, there is a couple of tips we want to tell you about, especially regarding the bolt. Ethan, you want to talk to us about those?
Yeah, if you have the bolt out of the gun and you realize you're trying to put it back together and you realize you just cannot get the bolt back into the receiver, it may have fallen into the decocked position. For the Lupo, if that little button right there is hit and it just gets twisted just a little bit, it snaps into the decocked position, just
Okay.
like that. And you won't be able to reassemble it like this. One indication that it's in this position is you can see the firing pin sticking out. So what you'll need to do is just recock it. And for that, you want to turn the rear of the striker assembly until the striker itself rolls up that notch onto the flat surface of the bolt shroud. And these can be a little tight. You may need to use a padded vise, maybe some soft jaw pliers to get that rotated.
Okay.
But once you do, then it's backed into the cocked position and we can reinstall the bolt into the gun.
Okay. Perfect. All right, Ethan. Now I believe there's one more thing with the bolt you said we need to mention.
Yeah, we do get a lot of calls from customers that have taken their bolt apart and can't get it back together. So I'm going to go ahead and just strip this down real quick and show you how to reassemble. It has a lock button right here on the back of the striker. And if we push that and rotate it clockwise, the striker will release from the shroud
Okay.
and then come apart into two pieces. This is not something that really gets a lot of fouling. You won't have to take it apart very often. But like I said, we do have customers that take it down to here and then they can't get it back together. So what we'll do is just take the striker, slide it back into the back of the striker assembly, and that goes into the shroud. And you'll notice on the striker there's a lug here. So we want to compress the spring enough to get that lug rotated back into the shroud. And you'll be turning it counterclockwise for this part. Just like that. Now you can see there, the striker is back down in the fired position. So I've got to recock it. And then it's reinstalled.
Perfect. Simple tips, but something that's super useful if you find yourself needing it.
Absolutely.
Well, Ethan, thanks for all your time today. We covered a ton of ground. As you can see, the Benelli Lupo is an amazing platform with a ton of customization. And as I've mentioned before, if you have any further questions about specs, details, or other information, refer to your owner's manual or visit BenelliUSA.com.